Eagles fans were treated to some surprising news on Saturday morning, with veteran quarterback Josh McCown, who had previously announced his retirement from football, signing a one-year contract that's reportedly worth up to $5.4 million, and $2 million of that is fully guaranteed. Now, there are plenty of ways to look at this, but I think the first thing we have to acknowledge here is that McCown has stepped out of retirement to join the Eagles. Now, he's got one more shot at a Super Bowl ring, something which, considering the career he's had with 76 starts, he's played in 99 career games. If he can get a Super Bowl ring, I think you can say he's definitely deserving. He's had 16 years of experience under his belt right now, and if McCown can get to a Super Bowl, then it'll be a full circle career for him. One last rodeo, if you will. On to the actual move itself and what it means for the Eagles, and obviously their quarterback position right now is in a real state of flux. You've got Nate Sudfeld, who's expected to be back by week 3, but could be week 5 depending on how his arm heals, and then you've got Cody Kessler, who recently suffered a concussion against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and no one really knows when he's going to be back. That could be this week, that could be next week, it may not be until week 1 or week 2. They've already made it clear that Carson Wentz is not going to play during preseason, and as great as Clayton Thorson was, it's not really fair to put a whole preseason game on him 2 or even 3 weeks in a row. The Eagles could have very easily brought in another backup. We could talk about a guy like Luis Perez, shout out to the podcast listeners, he was signed earlier this offseason. The Eagles have done the same before. We had Joe Callahan last year, we've seen Matt McGloin in years past. There was even a phase where, if you remember, Tim Tebow was a member of the roster. There were plenty of unsigned free agents available as well. For instance, players like Trevone Boykin was still available, but instead the Eagles went with a known NFL backup, a veteran NFL backup, someone which one would argue would directly replace Nick Foles. Now, that in itself brings up an interesting discussion of, does this reflect on Nate Sudfeld? And I think the way you have to view this is that at the end of the day, Nate Sudfeld doesn't have a lot of NFL experience, and I said this in our stream last Thursday night, that if it came down to it with 2 minutes to go and the game on the line, in that instance last Thursday, would you want Nate Sudfeld or Cody Kessler, a guy who's played 17 career games, to come in and lead the team down the field to win? I think it's the same argument with Josh McCown. It's unfair, really, to expect Sudfeld, who was an undrafted free agent a few years ago, to rapidly develop into a quarterback 2, who can then step into a clutch situation and potentially close out the deal for the Philadelphia Eagles. Whereas McCown's someone that has got a positive touchdown to interception ratio, has completed 60% of his passes, and a winning record, just paves the way. It takes the pressure off of Nate Sudfeld. It allows the Eagles to keep grooming him. We've seen the development year on year on year now. It's easy to see, it's night and day from each year past, but is it enough just yet? Is this injury a bit more substantial? That's where the insurance policy comes in, and I think that just having McCown around, even if that's not the case, and it is just purely due to the injury, having Josh McCown around is absolutely huge for this Eagles team. So the next port of call is saying, right, how does this impact the Eagles quarterback depth chart? There are now 4 technically on the roster. Only 3 of them realistically are going to make the team. I think this does put pressure on Clayton Thorson, because for the Eagles to keep him around, they are now paying Josh McCown some substantial money. Now, it's not Chase Daniel level money, and it's not even Nick Foles level money, but $2 million in comparison to Clayton Thorson's money is substantial. Now, if we take into account that Thorson did play much better in Thursday night's matchup, it is going to naturally put the pressure on, because the Eagles are going to have to decide, is it going to be a case of keeping Sudfeld around and then keeping McCown and Thorson? It may even be an idea to IR stash Nate Sudfeld and then keep McCown and Thorson around, so you don't have to expose Clayton Thorson to waivers. That could well be an eventuality, and the Eagles do begin to feel confident in the Northwestern product. Or alternatively, we could even see a resurgence for Cody Kessler, who, if he can get healthy by week number 4, the Eagles may not want to risk Josh McCown to exposure in case he gets injured and then they lose their temporary investment. So they may put Kessler and Thorson out in week 4 if he's ready to go. If Kessler outshines Thorson, same thing, but Thorson does get exposed to waivers. It's a really interesting sort of parameter to look at now. How are the Eagles going to structure this? We know Wentz is understandably at the top of the pecking order. McCown should be QB2, track record alone, and that's either going to mean Sudfeld QB3 unless he's put on IR. I think this bit alone honestly depends on Clayton Thorson. If Thorson shines, if he can improve again, going into week 3 and especially week 4, there is every chance the Eagles won't want to risk him to waivers and keep him on the roster as well. But until then, is going to follow me on Twitter. I want to know what you guys think. How does the Josh McCown signing impact this Eagles team? What do you feel about it? Let me know down in the comments, guys. From myself, Liam Jenkins, we'll have a film room episode coming very, very shortly. And of course, This Week in Philadelphia Sports will drop tomorrow as well. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter at Liam Jenkins PSN. I'll see you next time.